And now, it's time for another Dice Tower review with Tom Vasel.
Innovation is a plain looking game in a plain little box. Doesn't look very enticing. It's by Asmodee Games, which I think is kind of a strange name considering there's already Asmodee games out there. But don't be confused, this is one of the first games that they've come out with. It's designed by the designer of a underrated, I guess not underrated, but fairly unknown Glory to Rome. Now, Glory to Rome is a great card game. Along the lines of more popular games like Race for the Galaxy and San Juan, I think Glory to Rome is just as good as those games, maybe better. But those were games that used cards as multiple objects. This one's the same thing. It uses cards for different things, and it's a civilization building game. Let me give you a quick rundown of how it works, and then I'll talk a little bit more about my thoughts on this game. The game revolves around all these different cards here. There's 10 stacks of cards from different eras, from prehistory, classical, medieval, Renaissance, exploration, enlightenment, romance, modern, postmodern, and information. Each of these cards has some information on it. A big number to show you what era it's from, and that matters. That number is the value of the card. And then there's also a treasure value. We'll talk a bit more about that value later. But then on the other side of the card, it gives you a special ability. For example, this one gives you writing and some icons on the card. Each player starts with 2 cards from the number 1 stack, and the game begins. The game is going to revolve around these cards, as on your turn you have 2 actions. Now, one of the actions is to draw a card. You can draw a card equal to the number of the highest card that you have in front of you. So at the beginning of the game, you're only going to be able to draw from age 1. But if there are no age 1 cards left, you can draw from age 2. Once you get an age 2 card in front of you, you can easily draw from that pile. And if there's none left, you can draw from age 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, etc. And some of these cards will let you even draw from a future stack. One of the actions you can also do is play a card in front of you, like thus. You can have up to 5 cards in front of you at any given time, one of each of the 5 colors. Now, these cards have on them different symbols. This black symbol in hexagon is merely just a representation of that card. It's the other 3 symbols that matter. There's different kinds of abilities that they will give you. Like, for example, you can see here you have the green, here you have towers, here you have money as the game progresses. If I put out another red card, for example, though, it would go on top of the red card that I already have. And this will change the number of icons that you have in different colors. There's a good chance you won't even have all 5 colors in front of you at any given point in time. So you have 2 actions in your turn. You can do the same action more than once. So one of them is drawing a card. The other is placing a card down. The third action that you can do, and this is a pretty big one, is where you can play an action on a card. So let's look at this card here. And this one here says you may tuck a card from your hand of the same color as any card on your board. If you do, you may splay that color of your cards left. Huh. There's a lot of different terminology in there that you haven't heard. But one of those I want to talk about is splaying. As you splay cards, this is something that I've seen in this game and not seen in any other, you will move the cards left or right like thus. Moving it that way, moving it that way. You can even sometimes splay them upwards. The benefit of doing that is the more icons that you have available. As you get more and more cards in the game, and if you can splay them in the right direction, you can see all the icons that you will have as the game progresses. There's some other things there where you're talking about tucking. That's where you put a card under the bottom instead of the top. There's returning cards, there's drawing cards. But one of the neat things about these actions is, let's say for example, you may splay your red cards left here. You see this here? It shows this castle symbol here. Well, you can take that action, but anybody who has the same number of castle tokens as you or more can also do that action. In fact, they get to do it first. Now, you get a card as a reward for them doing that, but that's a good reason to have a lot of icons out, so if other people take actions, you can also. In fact, some of the actions here, for example, on the same card, you see this one that says, I demand. You transfer all top cards with this from your board to my score pile. You are making the other person do something, each other player, and if they have fewer icons than the one showing, in this case it's castles, they have to do it. If they have as many as you, well then they're safe. And so it's a constant battle to keep all these icons in front of you, and as the ages progress, more and more different icons will show up. Now, you notice that one said score. Each card can be scored during the course of the game, and it's worth the number of points that you have. See, everything works around this card here, which has it's a really nice reference card. On this side, it explains all the terminology, and here it tells you the different actions that you can do. The meld, putting a card down, the draw, drawing a card, the dogma, which is taking the actions on a card. And when you score a card, you stick it here. It's no longer, whatever it said on the other side doesn't matter. You stick it here and it's worth 3. At the beginning of the game, 1 card from each stack is taken and set aside in order, from 1 to 10. And these are achievements. You are trying to get a certain amount of achievements to win the game. To buy an achievement costs 5 victory points. So if you have a score of 5, let's see right here I have a score of 11, then I could buy the first one. Of course, the next one, a 2, is going to cost 10. The next one costs 15. The 4 costs 20. And so they get more and more expensive as the game progresses. So that's one of the ways you're trying to get achievements to win the game. You need 4 of those. There's also special achievements that can be gotten, like for example this one here, the World Achievement. Claim this special achievement immediately if you have 12 or more of these icons on your board. But there's also a card in the game that can give someone this achievement too. So there's 5 of these special achievements that can be won. And all that, there's also several cards in the number 10 deck, and there's at least one in the number 9 and one in the number 8, that allow the game to end with a different victory condition. So even if you're behind on buying these achievements, you can still win the game. As soon as someone gets 4 achievements, or if someone wins with one of these victory conditions, the game is over. Now that wasn't a top-notch rundown of the game. There's terms you'd have to look at. There's a few cards that you might need to look at. A small but very well-done rule book to see exactly how those cards are played and how they work together in the set. Now, you start wondering and saying, well, how do I know what's going on? You know, you have to look at everyone's cards. The answer to that is yes. You need to know what cards everyone else has. The cards everyone has will change. People will make you take cards and put them back. They'll steal cards from you. They'll force you to put cards in the score pile. Something can completely change. You splay your cards left, now you splay them right. There's different things that are going on in the course of the game, and your first couple games, you may feel a bit lost because the game is going to feel very chaotic, and that's for a simple reason. It is that chaotic. However, once you play several times, you get to know the cards. You'll say, okay, I know writing does this. I know the engineering is coming up, and I know I'm going to try and work for this, and maybe set up some combos, and you know what cards are in the game. It's really, really fun. It's very entertaining, and everything comes together, and it's a lot less chaotic. And you can prepare for this chaos and say, hey, even if I'm losing, I have a chance to win by doing such and such, you know, getting the most victory points, or having the least victory points in one case. So there's some pretty neat ways. The game even has a mechanic where if someone is forced to draw a number 11 card, there isn't any, then the game ends too, and whoever has the most points wins in that regard. There's just these different things. Now, let's be fair. Some of the people I play with hate this game. They look at it and it's just really confusing. You say, it doesn't sound that confusing. You have 2 actions. Take a card, place a card, use the card. But because there's so many different actions you can take, and you're watching what everyone else does, and you're deciding, do you want to do their action? What action's the best one right now? Should I play this card from my hand? There's a lot more choices than you think. This is a very unique game. It's going to be one of those hate it or love it games, I think. For me, definitely I love it. I think this is fantastic. It's a brilliant idea. It's just that it's one of those games that's going to get much better as you continue playing it. I know that I often say that a game needs to hit you right off the mark. And this one, the idea grabbed me instantly. But I can see new people getting really tired of some parts of the game quickly because a veteran player is just going to school them in so many different ways. But the theme is there. It's not super strong because, again, it's a card game. How much civilization can you fit in it? But it works. I like the chaos. I like the many different ways to win. It's very unique, and I highly recommend you check it out.
Thanks for joining us today. For more written, audio, and video reviews, as well as the #1 board game podcast, check out the website at www.thedicetower.com. Until then, this is Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower.